All right, so we have the normal slide that we talk about, right? So dates in this contained in this document are provided are estimates and only can be changed at any time, at the sole discretion of Jack Henry. So the presentation that we're going to be talking about today is modern eventing. And before we go ahead and get into the presentation, I just want a show of hands. Who is familiar with enterprise events and is integrated with it today?
Oh my gosh.
Almost everyone. That is great to hear. So there are a few people that I saw that didn't raise their hand. This is actually going to be a good opportunity for you to see what events are all about, because I'm going to be doing a kind of like intro to eventing first to see kind of like what is eventing and whatnot, and then we'll talk about what we've been doing with eventing. So let's go ahead and just take a look at our agenda here, right? So I'll be talking about intro to eventing, and then we're going to go into modernization motivation. So like, what are we doing in eventing? What are the new things that you're going to see? And what kind of capabilities are we exposing to you? So I do want to touch on that just for a half second here. So we have really done a lot with eventing. And what I mean is that we have gone through iterations of modernization. We are on the third rewrite of eventing today. So we look and see how can we optimize and how can we get better each time. So with this last rewrite of eventing, we actually got it down and got it out into production in 5 months. And we already have 600 customers that are live on this eventing platform. So we're really excited to show you the new capabilities that you're going to have and unlock with the new eventing system, which Ryan is going to go over with you, and I'm sure he's just as excited as me.
Giddy.
All right. So introduction about myself. My name is Alex Pflughoeft, engineering manager here at Jack Henry. So I've been at Jack Henry now for about 6 years. It'll be 7 years this fall. I've given a number of presentations. If you were at DevCon previously, I gave just, this was before our modernization effort, I gave a presentation on just the eventing system and how to get integrated with it today. So this one is just a continuation of that. So, I will go over the current system, but also to the modern system and where you can get started with that. My contact information is here. I'm happy to answer all and any questions if you have about eventing, especially with this modernization thing. As you go through your modernization journey, feel free to reach out. I'll pass it off to Ryan then.
Yeah, my name is Ryan. I've been with Jack Henry for 4 years. I've been working on this EES rebuild for the last couple months, and I'm super excited to show you what I've got.
All right, right on. Okay, so since I did see there was a few people that didn't raise their hands, we want to just give you an overview as to what are events. So events, right? The definition formally, like a notification sent by a publisher, and it's going to be about a specific activity or data activity that has changed. It's going to have like a payload that has different information detailing the name, the value, the previous value, and like the ID responsible for the change. It's also going to give you some sort of event number. So this will be like the identification number of the actual event itself, which will allow you to trigger off of, okay, well, when I get this event number, I want to do X. When I get this number, I want to do this. There's also severity in there as well. So like if you have informational or warnings or alerts or errors, you will be able to basically change based off of what you're looking for. So why should you care about enterprise events? Well, events are very critical to your workflows, right? So if you want to respond with real-time actions, you can instantly respond to critical activities that help you trigger internal actions. So if you're listening for like a fraud alert or whatnot, you will be able to listen to that event and then be able to trigger things that help out your customers in the long run. It's really good for you to be able to respond immediately to these things. And then also too, we also get rid of the resource-heavy polling. So what I mean is that you don't have to come to enterprise events and be like, hey, do I have an event? Hey, do I have an event? We're going to go ahead and push those events directly to you so that you can go ahead and trigger your workflows from there. So here's just some metrics on eventing itself. So now keep in mind, we are constantly growing. We are constantly adding new customers onto this system and having more events. These are just some rough metrics that I have here. So it is changing from a day-to-day basis. So on average, we process about 18,000 messages a minute. And then that can reach over 60,000 events at peak time. So that there are times, like during end-of-day processing where you guys have more things that are going on with your systems. You're going to be sending more events to our system. it really does grow with what the current load is. Now, converting that to hours, we do have 1 million, like 1 million an hour is about our average, and that does reach up to 3.5 million in peak periods. So, like I said, the modern platform that we're working on is really good for growing and scaling with this load. So we do anticipate this load getting higher and bigger as time goes on. And that's one of our motivations too for the eventing platform modernization effort. So what are some examples of events? This is just a subset of the events. The exhaustive list of all the different event numbers is actually going to be out on jackhenry.dev for you. And you'll be able to see, what the payload looks like and whatnot. And keep in mind, this is the existing, existing XML of the existing system. During the modernization effort, we have altered that a bit to support JSON. However, we will still support the old way of doing things. So if you're like, okay, well, I want to get into the new system and get the new modernization stuff, but I don't really want to change absolutely everything that we're doing now, that's completely fine. We'll be able to migrate you over to the new system without having to do any kind of code changes on your end. So if we go through some of the examples here, right, you can see it. You've got account and lending. There's event number 100, which is like changes to credit limit, 950, loan payment due, security and fraud. There's 660, which is ACH fraud suspect. I'm not going to go through all of those, but what you would do then is with the enterprise eventing system, you can go ahead and figure out, okay, well, which events do I care about for my workflows? And you will go ahead and subscribe to those into the eventing platform, and then we'll be able to send those to you so you can trigger your own workflows. Now, on the right-hand side here, I know it's really small, but you guys are going to have access to the slides. This is also on jackhenry.dev. It's just an example of what the existing payload looks like. And like I said, this is the existing stuff. It's not the modern stuff. You can convert over to the modern stuff, which we'll talk about. But right now, if you don't want to change anything, you can leave everything how it is. So how are events currently structured, right? So it's an XML payload. We've got a message root, which is the ES event add. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that because you have to integrate with it with your code. There is the message request header, which contains like audit details, customer product, and then also to the timestamp. And then there's going to be metadata within there as well. And that has the institution ID, date timestamps, data elements, new values. And you can get, like I said, you can get all the eventing structure out in jackhenry.dev to integrate with that. So how does it work? What's the eventing lifecycle itself? So there's basically 3 steps. And these 3 steps, and I am simplifying this tremendously, but basically what we have is, you publish events, it gets evaluated by our system, and then we push it to its destination. So during the publish process, basically we have a provider which has a many-to-many relationship with events and providers. They can go ahead and send different events to our enterprise eventing system. During the evaluation process, what will happen is that our system will look at which events you're subscribed to and filter out which ones that make sense and then push it to the corresponding destinations. So just a little bit more recap as to what's the difference between publishers and subscribers, right? So the publishers are basically the ones that are providing the events to the enterprise eventing platform. And then the subscribers are the ones that create those different subscriptions. They're like, hey, I want to be able to see these events, so these are the ones that you should send. So overall, it's basically like, enterprise-wide pub sub system that allows you to see different things that are happening within your system that you want to go ahead and subscribe to. So what is our goals? I touched on some of those goals. Right? We want to really give you guys more insights as to what's happening. So I do want to see a show of hands. Who knows exactly where all of their events are at all times? Literally no one. Okay, so what we want to do is give you the opportunity to dive into and see where your events are. So instead of having to come to Jack Henry and be like, okay, well, whatever happened to this event? I'm not sure, maybe I'm seeing some sort of weird issue that I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's our system, maybe it's your system. We're going to give you the ability, and Ryan will showcase that as well, to dive into, okay, these are all the events that were delivered in our system, and you can go ahead and do some self-troubleshooting without having to rely on us. So that's one of the biggest motivations. In fact, I don't know if you're here, but there were a few people that came to me last DevCon, and they requested this specifically to have more insight and self-service to their events so they don't have to come through us every single time. In addition to that, we've also built in new things like observability, tracing, and Ryan will go over all the bells and whistles as to what we've done, but we've really made this thing a really solid system that can scale and give you a lot of self-service. I will hand it off to Ryan, and he's going to talk more about the new platform.
Thanks. So for us, we talked to a lot of customers about a lot of the pain points that existed, maybe in the modern eventing, or with previous eventing systems. This has been a system that's existed at Jack Henry for 20 plus years. So for us, we needed to make sure that we could build something that scales with, your FIs and your fintechs, while making sure we don't break anything that already exists. So this is fully backwards compatible. This, basically just rethinking of how we do eventing. So everything is going to work the same way. All your integrations are going to work the same. And we're going to cover how that works and how we're backwards compatible. So if you're still on SOAP, you can still use SOAP. A lot of these things are support tickets. So if you have an event or subscription that you need made for some integration, we're not going to expect you to have to go and set that up yourselves. That would be kind of tedious. You can still file these normal tickets, these normal channels, and get Jack Henry to create these for you. And then most importantly, as we kind of dove into rebuilding, re-architecting the system, is speed is everything. I've heard stories about how an event can be slow or take a while, and it's a real-time thing that somebody is sitting in a branch of an FI and they need to handle it as fast as possible so that they can get somebody out the door. We got our system down to about 250 milliseconds on average event delivery. So that was a huge improvement across the board for everything, no matter what, on this system. And then, we know a massive important thing to FIs going forward is, having the ability to control their data, control their systems as much as possible. So there was no RESTful API. So you can create subscriptions, you can, on the fly, you can write testing, you can create things as you need to, you can listen to specific events, you can modify them yourself. Because previously, this was a ticket, and that could take some time for, process. If I were you, I'd want it immediately.
So I'd like to add one thing to that too, Ryan. So when we do any kind of, you're going to see a lot of how the screens work with this platform, but just keep in mind that we are API first. So we're really thinking about how do we develop this into an API first before we go ahead and create the screens. He will show the APIs as well, and those will be exposed to you guys as well. You'll be able to get access to the documentation as to how that works, but just keep that in mind that that's how we operate as engineers is let's do the APIs first and then build the user interface on top of that.
Every UI you will see is built on the exact same APIs that we have exposed as well. And then the last thing that's really important is reliability, resiliency. So we built this in an active way. So an asteroid could literally hit one data center and you're still going to get your events. So this is kind of a picture of the UI of what we built. This is kind of standard Jack Henry platform product, right? This is just kind of a global view of events. I'm going to break down everything on the screen because I know it's kind of hard to see out from the audience. But now you have a UI. You can trace what happened to an event, how long it took to dispatch, how long it got to receive, and if it failed. So before that, when you log in to Jack Henry platform, which this is now running on, you'll have a list of your subscriptions. Now I took a picture of our staging environment because I didn't want to show a real FI with a bunch of their real subscriptions. But these are all configured differently. So if you're listening to different event numbers and you're curious about that, you can find that here. So we have standard stuff like filtering. You can find what you're looking for because some of these the FIs and integrators and fintechs, you guys will have hundreds of subscriptions. That can be kind of tedious to find things. So we added searching capabilities, that kind of thing in the UI. Going back to the individual subscription page, again, we get constant sort of messages, phone calls to Jack Henry support about hey, where's my events? What's going on? Why'd this break? So now you can go and find it. You can correlate this. You can see what the status of things are. You can go and look, and you can find if things are slow, what's the event delivery look like, how long these are taking roughly. You can search via time frame. So hey, I had a network blip in this particular section. What happened there?
I would like to add one thing if you go back to that slide.
Yeah.
So, this doesn't mean that, okay, everything's 100% self-service, so we're going to go ahead and abandon you as customers and be like, well, good luck, So you guys can still, if you have questions as to, how are things working, maybe you don't 100% understand the API. I know that it's kind of a transition period, right, from going from having us do a lot of the support for you to having, a lot of stuff at tools that you didn't have before. So we're definitely going to be there for that transition period when you convert over.
Yeah, and this is like part of our standard runbook now. Now that we also use this UI because we are also dependent on these events for a lot of stuff that we build. So it's part of our standard runbook. Like if something is, interesting happening in the system, like we're going to go and look at the same UI you would. So going forward, like how are subscriptions created? Alex touched on there's countless event numbers for all kinds of different events and different systems at Jack Henry. So if you want to start subscribing to fraud events and you want to know about just the general status of things, like is it working, kind of suspicious results that maybe you have some end of day like processing on that you like want to ship out, we now have the ability for you to just go ahead and create the subscription. So I just chose this as a random example, and you can see we have WCF, we have JSON, we have SOAP. All these options are configurable, and then you can pick the event number.
Can you touch a little bit more on the JSON and just kind of...
Yeah, so we know that SOAP is not everyone's favorite thing to work with in 2026. So going forward, JSON is a first-class supported thing. We would hope that going forward, a lot of you build integrations and can maybe start moving some of these legacy systems over to start using JSON.
And I just want to add to that, like I said, a lot of you came up to me personally, and this was one of the requests, was like, hey, this is a great system, we love it, but we're just not a huge fan of, SOAP and WCF. Are you guys going to be modernizing, moving to JSON, moving to REST, and this is the answer to that.
I had 3 of you come up to me about this here. So going forward, again, this is just an example of something that you can deploy on your infrastructure. You can provide your secrets, your credentialing. You can handle all of this yourself. You don't need to talk to us anymore if this is something you want to do. So this improves your developer velocity. It doesn't slow you guys down to have to do this anymore. And we also give you kind of some more control. So for example, like a lot of you guys batch events, or not batch events, meaning like we can send them to you one at a time as we get them. Or if it's okay, we can send them collapsed into one giant request and then send them to you, and we batch them all together. And you now have that control. So whatever is best performance for you and your use cases is how you can go going forward.
Yeah, and to touch more on the batching of events, that was something that was, it existed in the current system, and we carried that over because we know that there are some people that have systems that rely on being able to get those batches. So we wanted to make sure that you had the ability to do that going forward as well, just so we didn't have to put some unnecessary pressure on you to be like, okay, well now you have to stream all these different events and you can't batch them anymore.
Yeah, would you rather have like one request of 1,000 events or 1,000 requests of one event? It's up to you. So moving forward, once I would have created a subscription, it just appears in the UI, the global view for your institution on Jack Henry platform. And as I spoke about, RESTful APIs were like truly the core of us like rebuilding this system. We know that like everybody was requesting this. Every single integrator that we had was like, you need APIs that can do this. And you can find this documentation on jackhenry.dev because I know this probably isn't the easiest to see, but you can create subscriptions, edit your subscriptions, subscribe to new events immediately. You will start seeing them flow to you immediately. So there's no longer this wait period, increasing your developer velocity, and now you can start adding testing on this kind of thing if that's something that's important to you. So like if you are someone that integrates against Jack Henry and you publish events to us, this can change as well, right? So you can send us events in JSON format now, and we will ingest them in going forward in JSON, no longer in XML, if that's the preferred thing you'd want to do. So if you're an integrator out there, I don't mean to scare you, but I might have some work for you later to do. And then this next slide, I think is honestly probably one of the more powerful things that we've added into this system, which is we added the ability to replay events. This is important for us just as much as it is for you, because the internet is a series of tubes that like to break. And in that posture, you could be in a situation where, oh, my network was down and there's some really important fraud events or credit card processing that I need to do. Let me kick off a job to go replay those and get them in my system. And there was no mechanism for this previously. So in this world, now we have the ability for us and you, if some sort of outage were to occur, you can now process your events again and continue on with whatever it is analytics you're doing.
Yeah, and this goes back into like more of like the self-service that we're trying to get to you guys. So, like one of our main goals is to make this more of a self-serving platform. And this is one of the features that we added so that you have more troubleshooting skills, that you have more things that we've exposed to you so that you can go ahead and do this stuff without having to interface with us every single time.
Yeah, so this is just one of the many things that we were trying to approach when it comes to reliability and resiliency at all levels within the system. So going forward, right, just kind of how we architected this, how we built it. So we're fully active. We're deployed in two GCP regions, many replicas. So technically it's 6 data centers total, I believe. We have complete telemetry from the time we receive an event to the time it goes out. So we know what's happening at every single aspect through our system all the time. Very granular to the point where we have complete tracing. I'll go back.
I just want to point something out. Can you go back a slide?
Yes.
So this number here, this is the system speed, which Ryan touched on before.
Yes.
109 millisecond average. So that means that every single event that we're processing, and remember the quantity of events that we were getting, which was millions of events, right?
Yes.
The average processing time is 109 milliseconds, which is blazing fast.
Yeah, we do not hold on to that, and we've worked extremely hard with caching and all these other types of architecture to kind of think through how can we make sure that this is getting out as quickly as we possibly can and that we don't get backed up if we get a burst of, say, millions of events, which has happened. So we trace everything through the system. We know what's happening at every single layer. To kind of break this down, because I know this is hard to see, it basically follows an event from when it is ingested to the processing we do on it to the persistence we do on it. And so persistence is kind of interesting because we have to capture these events. So if something breaks along the way or we fail to deliver to you, we store it in our layer, and so you can always come back and replay it later. This is also making us one of the more heavy users of our database at the moment, but it's pretty awesome because we're storing everything.
And just one thing to add to this too, this gives us a lot more insight as to, if you guys are having issues with getting your events, this allows us to kind of pinpoint exactly where the issue is being caused, which allows us to work better with you and partner with you to make sure that you're getting your events in a timely fashion.
Yeah, so if you're I have an event and that was really slow, what happened? And you send us an event ID, we can pull this up and know almost immediately where things might be getting a little rough. So yeah, just to kind of recap the big ideas of what we've gone through. So this was a full rebuild, that's fully backwards compatible with the stuff that you're having. Everything now operates through a first-class API so that you can build the integrations that you want to on the literal hundreds of events that we support. This gives you more control over your data. So if you want to just pipe data out of Jack Henry and store it, you totally can without too much fuss. And then kind of go into this.
Yeah, so like I said before, we have 600 customers that are already live on this platform. So we have done kind of a back-end, closed beta migration at this point. So we did move about 600 customers over this new platform. And if you do want to figure out, hey, how do I get started with my journey to make sure that I get into the new platform as well? You can reach out to DevRel and we can talk about, okay, well, what's required? What events are you looking for? Everyone's going to have a little bit of a different situation. So we want to have those conversations with you to make sure that we can get you over. Now, also too, I don't know if we have directly in this specific slide, but we do have documentation as well for our API documentation. So we'll make sure to get that link updated. I know it just says jackhenry.dev. This product isn't technically GA yet since we have, it's more of a closed beta at this point with select customers. But we will go ahead and make sure that the documentation is in there so you can see all of the different APIs that exist today and how you can start your integration journey.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning, if you go to jackhenry.dev right now and look at event numbers and you feel okay implementing against XML, that's totally fine because we're going to always support it, to be honest with you. And that's going to be a first-class citizen just as much as JSON is. So anything you build today will continue to work forever. So with that, I'm going to let Alex close us out.
Yeah, I just do want to point out this little GIF that Ryan threw together, which was pretty sweet. So I'm not exactly sure how you did that, but it was pretty sweet. But anyways, it just kind of, seeing the screens is one thing, but also seeing kind of like how it interacts and what your experience is going to be is another thing. So it's really fast, but it's showing kind of like, the events and the subscriptions and whatnot, and what your process would be like to go ahead and set up your subscriptions and to troubleshoot your events. So I thought that was pretty sweet. So just to kind of close out here, again, jackhenry.dev, we'd love to hear your different conversations and how to get you started on that integration journey. So make sure to reach out. Like I said, my name's Alex. This is Ryan. Feel free to find us. We are going to be here and be able to answer any questions that you have.
Come talk to me about events. Thanks, everyone.
That's it.